The new theater of the mind. The Clown Prince of Doom. The Bruce Collins Show, daring to take radio past the point of no return.
Welcome back to the Bruce Collins Show. We're very glad to have you join us. The Bruce Collins Show airs every Friday night right here at WWPR 1490 AM. You can listen to past archives of the Bruce Collins Show at fringeradionetwork.com. That's fringeradionetwork.com. There's a tab just for the Bruce Collins Show on the Fringe Radio Network website. We would appreciate it if you're able to spread the word for our show by word of mouth, social media, or in whatever creative way you can. Also, we have a Facebook page for the Bruce Collins Show. Please like us there. And you can email the show at Bruce_Collins_show at AOL.com. Drop us a line and let us know how we're doing. The Bruce Collins Show also has a YouTube channel. Visit YouTube, search for the Bruce Collins Show channel, subscribe, and catch all the latest shows on YouTube. Tonight is our special episode, a salute to WrestleMania. Yes, that's one too many ring bells, probably too much. That's right, WrestleMania, where we celebrate the upcoming Super Bowl of wrestling. Join us this week. Edit that part. Joining us this week are WWE Hall of Famer Jake the Snake Roberts, who created the devastating finishing move known as the DDT, and also joining us is female wrestler Gail Kim, who was the first Knockouts champion in Impact Wrestling and a WWE Divas champion, and many say she is the best female wrestler of all time. And now let me introduce my co-host, Chad Miles. He's also a former congressional candidate in Michigan and a military veteran, and is the founder and executive director of Sling and Stone Outfitters, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that is dedicated to helping disabled veterans experience the outdoors. You can find out more information on his website, chadmiles.com. He is radio's lethal weapon, Chad Miles, and he's old school. He's old school. He's so old school that he thinks Snoop Doggy Dogg is Charlie Brown's pet. Welcome back to the program, Chad.
Hey, thanks, Bruce. I am old school. I wear that label proudly.
You know, I have a question for you. This is a sports-related question. Who was I know it's boxing and we're talking wrestling this week, but still, it's in the same sports category. Who was the last person who boxed Joe Louis? Do you know the answer to that?
Oh, no, I don't.
The Mortician. By the way, Chad, why are you dressed up this week in a wrestling robe and wrestling boots?
Hey, Bruce, when you're talking about wrestling, the show is about wrestling. It just takes me back to my youth when I used to watch WWF back in the 80s, before it was WWE. And there was Jake the Snake Roberts, there was Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant. I mean, it was just this big cast of characters. It was entertaining. It was awesome. But I'll tell you what, even before I would watch the WWF, I used to watch, and you'll probably remember this, Bruce, I used to watch at my aunt's house because she had cable television and I didn't have cable television when I was younger. She would watch, or actually it was my uncle, would watch wrestling on WTBS.
Right.
And they had basically a studio audience.
Yes.
In a wrestling ring in the studio of the TV station. And that's when you had Ric Flair actually was on there. I think that's where he got his start. Dusty Rhodes, some of these other wrestlers. And they would just kind of wrestle on television. And my favorite part, and this applies to the WWF wrestling also, my favorite part was not the wrestling. It was when the wrestlers talked smack and talked trash about each other in between the matches. That's what I liked.
Do you remember the commentator was Gordon Soley?
Yeah. Yes.
Kind of a crusty old guy.
Yeah.
And do you remember, you mentioned him, You remember? The American dream, Dusty Rhodes. Brother, I'm fighting for the American way of life. This is the American dream, Dusty Rhodes.
And he was like the main star.
Yeah.
And he really wasn't like really good looking, and he wasn't like a bodybuilder, or, because you look at somebody like Hulk Hogan, I mean, he was a good looking guy. He had, a lot of those guys would work out and they had these really nice Arnold Schwarzenegger type bodies. He wasn't like that. He kind of had a pot belly, but he was like the main guy on there. So it was a little more realistic, a little more grounded, in my opinion.
Yeah. Dusty Rhodes looked like a Macy's Day Parade that took the wrong turn. You're being a little bit generous.
That they have all the lanyards attached to or whatever.
That's right. In a moment, our salute to WrestleMania continues with Jake the Snake Roberts and Gail Kim. Gail Kim is regarded by many to be the greatest female wrestler of all time, and she proves that every week on TNA's Impact Wrestling on Friday nights at Destination America. Gail has been a WWE Women's Champion, becoming the first WWE Diva in history to win a championship in her first match, and she was the first TNA Women's Knockout Champion in October 2007. In 2012, Pro Wrestling Illustrated named Gail Kim the #1 female wrestler in the world. You can find out more information about Gail Kim and TNA Wrestling at ImpactWrestling.com, where they feature Gail Kim merchandise as well as other TNA wrestlers. As we said earlier, TNA Wrestling can now be found on Destination America. Gail will also be signing autographs and taking photos at WrestleCon during WrestleMania weekend. You can find out more information at WrestleCon.com. Gail Kim, welcome to the Bruce Collins Show.
Thanks, Bruce. Thanks for having me on.
Now, at what point did you decide to be a professional wrestler? Was that at an early age?
You know what? It's so funny because I didn't know for sure when I wanted to be a wrestler, but I actually have vivid memories of dreams, of remembering dreams that I was a wrestler, which was very weird. And then I remember childhood memories, which I normally don't remember, of me wrestling my friends, when we were over at each other's houses. And so sometimes I think back to those times and I think, well, I guess it was meant to be. Yeah. So I kind of really made my decision while I was in college. I started a little bit late compared to most wrestlers these days. And so I started at the age of 23. So I was really fortunate to make it to a TV level within 2 years. And, I wasn't ready. I will say that's for sure, but I learned very quickly.
I was promoting indie wrestling in Northern California. I was horrible at it, so I didn't last very long. But I heard about La Felina in Canada, and you had a good reputation even early on in the indie ranks. With that being the case, how intimidating was it still for you to move up to WWE?
Oh my gosh. I mean, when I first got into the business, I thought I'm going to make it in a year, which I didn't realize when I started training that a year was actually a really short amount of time. And I mean, you realize quickly when you get thrown into an environment like that, mentally more than anything, emotionally, I think it was hard. Physically, obviously, I feel like I was meant to be in this business, so I learned quickly. It's a really hard life. You give your life to that company and you're on the road all the time. It's really hard in relationships and, it was really hard, but I will say it was a great learning experience. And then, I got fired after 2 years of being in WWE, in the beginning of my career. And, back then when it's happening, you never know, why it's happening, but it was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me because it made me stronger. it made me, I lost my passion, and
Yeah.
TNA came back to me and wanted me to work with them, and it reignited my passion. And, just, you look back after a couple of years of things happening and you realize that everything, happened for a reason.
Right.
And, when I went back to WWE, when I got rehired again, I said to the guy who fired me, Johnny Ace, I said to him, "Thank you so much for firing me. It was the best thing that ever happened to me." And he looked at me confused, and I said, it's just, you just become a different person, and your life leads you in a certain path, and I would never have, experienced the thing that I did with TNA if they didn't fire me. Learning about walking away from the business and coming back with even more passion, it's quite an experience, and I wouldn't have changed anything looking back.
You've probably been asked this a million times, so unfortunately it'd be 1,000,001, but was it a shock for you that WWE was entrusting you with the title at your first appearance?
Honestly, it was such a blur. I remember that day when they told me I was going to win the title. I was just like, what? I didn't believe them. I was just, I think I wouldn't change it, like I said, looking back now, because it was a part of history, and, it was an honor for me to be the first woman to do that. But honestly, if you're starting in this business and you start as champion, the only way you're going to go is down, especially if you were as green as I was. And it was crazy. I honestly don't remember much from that 2-year run. It's almost like it was blocked out of my memory.
Yeah.
It was overwhelming, and like I said, it was a learning experience. I knew I had never really worked as a babyface, number one, until I got to that company on the indies. I worked as a heel most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was out of my comfort zone, being green, and then being given the championship and not really realizing, how others would feel about it in the locker room, or, who knows to this day how they were really feeling. But I was so oblivious to it all because, like I said, I was so green and didn't even know anything back then. I feel like athletically probably gifted and learned quickly in the business, and that's pretty much all I had at that point. But I had a lot of good friends who, I had in that company at the time who I trusted, which, they helped me along the way. So it was good.
Yeah. So I take it that if we could sum up your experiences with TNA and WWE, that you have a lot more input in the creative part of your character with TNA than WWE. Would that be fair to say?
Oh, my goodness. Yes. Definitely. I mean, not just creative with character. I think creative in the ring, and we're also given a lot more time being women in this business. And, and when I was in WWE, it was like 3-minute matches. Yeah. And with TNA Impact, it's, 12. It could be anywhere between 8 to 15 minutes. And you can tell a story that way. You can entertain the fans that way. And it's such a huge difference. And, people get to connect to your character, and that's how they get invested in you.
Right.
So
absolutely.
It's definitely a huge difference, yeah.
So TNA has consistently taken a more serious approach to women's wrestling, and this is obvious. I'm not the only one that's saying that. I think WWE's gotten better with NXT, but why do you think that's the case, that TNA does a better job with women's wrestling?
I could definitely say, honestly, it's probably who's in charge right now.
Yeah.
And in Impact, it's Dixie Carter. And right now, I know a lot of people think Stephanie and Triple H, obviously they must have a large influence, but Vince McMahon, I would assume, has the final say still. He's the boss. Yeah. So he's always run his company a certain way, and that's been women being the minority. And Dixie has never really looked at it that way. She's always believed in the women and know that, it's been a success for the company in terms of ratings and how the fans react to us. And they trust us. The girls roster that we have right now, and even in the past, have been just so talented and passionate about what they do. And they always want to bring it to the table. And, you know, I've always felt like that. I've never just felt like, especially nowadays, I don't even feel like I just want to be as good as the guys. I want to steal the show, and I want to be the best match on the show.
Right.
You know, so, and they give us that opportunity, and slowly, you know, they gave us that opportunity years ago, and slowly they started to trust us and realized, wow, I mean, they can do it. And, it's been great. I mean, I've experienced every great moment of my career with this company. So, and that's because they give me the platform to do it.
Honestly, I think the best of Vince has been great for WWE, but the worst of Vince has also been the same. And that's evident right now with some of the people he's pushing for WrestleMania. I wanted to ask you about the TNA ring. This is obviously very distinctive, and I think it looks great on television. But for you, for an athlete, a six-sided ring versus a four-sided ring, what do you see in the differences between the two?
I will say you know, when you're tagging, I guess that's a little bit of a difference. Sometimes when you're whipping someone off into the ropes or the corner, you're not sure what's behind you. But I've adjusted pretty quickly, and I think all the wrestlers adjust pretty quickly. When we went back to the four-sided ring, I preferred it. And then we had a fan vote, and it was overwhelming. The fans wanted to see the six-sided ring. And so, you know, we forget about it. Once you just get adjusted, it's normal. We don't even think about it anymore. So, going off the top rope might be because it's wider, the ropes. So I might not go off the top rope the same way, and you might not be able to do things exactly the same way, but we always find a way to adjust.
Yeah. Now, there's YouTube videos all over the place from your fans that show all of the different signature and finishing moves that you have in your arsenal. How do you develop all of these moves, and do you have a favorite? Wow.
I guess my favorite is my finisher. I don't know. No, you know, I like to say that my style is that I like to stay creative. I like to stay innovative. I do have my signature stuff that I do. But if you notice, you know, I do some of the moves a lot in some of the matches, but I like to mix it up, and I like to keep it fresh, and I never want the fans to be bored. So, I guess I do love the figure four on the post, but that was, you know, a credit to Bret Hart, and, you know, I asked him if it was okay if I could do that, and he gave me his blessing, which was pretty cool. Yeah. And, I think I like, you know, when I'm a babyface, I like to do more high-flying stuff. And then when I'm a heel, I kind of go more technical and go a submission route.
Yeah.
But I just like being creative.
Are you comfortable with the title, because I know you've heard this before, of being the greatest female wrestler of all time?
Oh, I don't know about all time, but I mean, it's very flattering. And I remember saying in interviews early in my career, I said, when I walk away from this business and I retire, I want fans to remember me as a great wrestler. You know, some people might want to be recognized as a great entertainer or whatever it may be, but I want to be remembered as a great wrestler. And if that's what the fans do remember about me, you know, that would be my wish.
Yeah. And who's
so had it's very flattering.
And who has had the greatest influence in your wrestling career?
Wow. I would probably say Molly Holly. I'll always go back to Molly Holly because she's the one who gave me my opportunity in this business. Yeah. And she's one that has always stayed true to who she was. She was always a good person in and outside of that ring. She always, you know, just led a good example of being a good human being. And sometimes in this business, it can get political, it can get cutthroat, and she was never that way. And I think I just wanted to be like her. She was so graceful in the ring, athletic. She wrestled as good as the guys, in my opinion. And she was, like I said, a good human being. And that's something that I've always looked up to.
Yeah, and there's a great segue. Molly Holly and Gail Kim will be at WrestleCon during WrestleMania weekend, WrestleCon.com. I'll be there, but as a fan. But okay,
good.
So you're known for being a very physical wrestler. Are you always in pain outside of the ring?
We have our days. We all have our days, and because of our schedule kind of changing now, we do 4 or 5 days of wrestling sometimes in a row, and it can get very physical, and sometimes we'll be hobbling, but you just try to take care of your body as best as possible. I like to work out and lift all the time so that my muscles are strong. If anything, if you don't work out, you're going to have a weak core, you're going to have weak joints, and I just believe in strength training and keeping fit. And so that helps a lot. And then I definitely try to keep up with my massages and chiropractic adjustments to make sure that I'm just always in alignment. I mean, it's hard to stay like that all the time, but because I'm on planes constantly, traveling all the time, so it can get uncomfortable, but I think I'm feeling okay. I feel pretty good.
Now, I noticed on the program last Friday that you kind of had a face-off with Awesome Kong. Is this shades of something that is going to happen in the future?
Well, we will see, because right now she kind of has her eye on the title.
Yeah.
So, I'm just kind of watching Taryn's back because I have that experience, and I know Kong, and I've experienced her in the past, and Taryn hasn't. So we'll just see how that plays out, and I just want Taryn to be careful because she has no idea what she's in for.
Yeah. Last question. Is there anything you haven't done yet? It seems like you've done everything. What goals are there left for you to accomplish? And do you have an idea in time, you don't have to state that here, but of when you're going to leave the business?
I don't have a specific idea, but obviously I'm not the youngest girl in the locker room. I feel like I'm still performing at a prime level.
Yeah.
But that's also how I want my fans to remember me. So I don't want to be declining and they're saying, oh my God, Gail needs to retire, but I'm pretty realistic, and it'll probably happen in the next couple of years, definitely. So I can't say when.
Yeah. So you're not going to be like Mae Young and come out when you're 80 then, huh?
No.
Okay.
This business is hard to part with, but at the same time, I feel like I'm very realistic, and, it's a very aesthetic business as well, and I'm lucky that I'm Asian, so I age a little bit more gracefully. But, I want it to be the right time, and I can't really say. I mean, that question has come up. So, if the question's coming up, it's probably going to be at some point in the next couple of years. We'll see. Well, it really depends on a lot of factors. It depends on how I feel physically, how I'm performing,
Right.
You can't really say. I don't know.
Well, as far as the fans are concerned, you're still at the top of the game. And we've been speaking with Gail Kim, who many regard as the greatest female wrestler, I'll get that in again, of all time. And you can see her every week at Destination America's Impact Wrestling. You can find out more information at impactwrestling.com. Thank you so much for joining us, Gail, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Definitely. Thanks, Bruce. And I'll see you at WrestleCon.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for being so professional.
Thanks, Gail. And joining us this week is Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake the Snake Roberts is a household name for millions of wrestling fans all over the world. Jake is probably best known for his 2 stints in the World Wrestling Federation, now known as WWE, the first between 1986 and 1992, and the second between 1996 and 1997. He's also famous for his expertise in ring psychology and his dreaded finishing move, the DDT. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I became a wrestling fan because of my late grandfather. On Saturday mornings, we used to watch professional wrestling and roller derby, and our two favorite wrestlers of all time, and always will be, Ray the Crippler Stevens and Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake the Snake, welcome back to the Bruce Collins Show.
Thank you very much, Bruce.
When I last interviewed you, you were not in the WWE Hall of Fame. This happened last year. Your fans were very happy about this event. It was a long time coming. How did you find out that you were being inducted into the Hall of Fame?
Helmsley called me.
Oh.
And, invited me in, and, well, the rest is, history. But, it was a long time coming, but, there was a lot of things that I did that delayed my induction. Bad choices, the drugs and the alcohol. The one thing I cleaned up, kind of all the excuses were out of the way, weren't they? So, okay, what's the reason for saying no now? Well, there wasn't one, and they put me in.
What happens during that weekend for the inductees?
Oh, man. I'd be lying if I said anything, because it's all such a blur.
Yeah.
I just know that, you're pulled around here and there and everywhere. Everybody wants to interview you, and everybody wants to talk to you, and everybody wants you on film and taking pictures. But for me, the real time was being with my kids.
Yeah.
And being with my kids and being able to share that moment with them was awesome. Going to different functions and stuff, and that's fine. But just having my kids with me was just so very important to me, because it was a real healing for me and my family.
Now, there's a rumor, I don't know if this is going to actually happen, because I don't think it's happened yet, but there's a rumor that Ray Stevens may be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. Wouldn't that be a great idea?
Well, that would be awesome, man. He certainly deserves it. I had the opportunity to be around Ray quite a bit in Charlotte territory, and quite the gentleman, quite the man, and there's so much that is missed. Ray was a tremendous talent.
Yeah.
Tremendous talent.
Do you watch much WWE these days?
I just went to SmackDown the other night.
Oh.
I heard it filmed here in Atlanta, so we went down, and me and a bunch of people from the crib here, and we went up and aggravated them for a while, got in their way, and I talked to a few of the guys, from the past and the present. Was able to sit down and talk to Bray Wyatt for a little bit, and that I sure enjoyed. Seeing Mike Rotundo, his father, and Mike Rotundo was a rookie whenever I ran across him. And I was in the Charlotte territory years ago. But, seeing some of the old guys was good, and seeing some of the new talent. And it seems like the more I'm around them, the more they want to know. So maybe I should stay around them more often, because they can always use a little bit of learning, And there's a few of them that come up and ask me my opinion on certain things, and I'm grateful for that. It makes me feel pretty damn good that I'm able to contribute in some small way.
Mm-hmm. It seems to me that WWE would benefit from hiring yourself, or someone that has been in the business and made their mark. Is that something that they would consider?
I have no idea what they'll consider. I know what I would consider. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
I would love to be sharing what I know and helping some of these guys, tweak out their little problems that they're not coming through on, and maybe help them on some interviews. Hell, I might even teach one of them how to wrestle. I don't know. But, there's a few of them that could use a little help. But, these guys are tremendous athletes. There's no doubt about that. They're better athletes than we were.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, because they didn't go through the learning process like we did, they come up short in some of the other areas. And it's not their fault.
Right.
You know, these guys today, man, they're taken out of school down there in Florida and thrust right into it. It's sink or swim, you know, and they got a tough road. And I certainly wouldn't want to do it. I know what would have happened to me. I would have sank.
Yeah.
But these guys are performing at a high level right off the bat, you know, and a lot of pressure on them. And, it's not something that's easily done, you know, and I feel for them. I really do.
Yeah.
So it's very frustrating.
So NXT is definitely a great idea for WWE as far as developing talent, but it's not half of what the indie scene used to be.
No, God, no. And that was the thing with the indie scene. When you have to go to the same towns week in and week out and make your mark and keep your job by performing and by growing as a character, that's a different animal. You know, you think on your feet, you think on the run. It's not like today where the guys are, you know, they've got all day to put their match together and practice it. What the hell are you talking about? You know, it was a little bit different back in my day.
Do you think some of the
I think it shows too.
Yeah. Do you think some of the matches should slow down as far as?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. You know, they don't give the time. They don't give the time needed for the fans to really get into it, get involved, and be a part of it. And let's face it, without fan participation, your match is nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, if you want to do a test, just go back and look at the film from 25 years ago and watch the fans' reactions to what's going on, and then watch the film today and see the lack of reaction.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's pretty sad. I mean,
there's really no selling anymore, is there?
Oh, there's no selling. There's no comebacks. It's all just one speed, man. And you know, here's what it is. I mean, the product they're putting out there today is something that's selling, and it's something that's working. Vince is not going broke by no means.
Right.
So his contributors have to be happy. But is it what I would like? No.
Yeah.
But you know, thank God the world's not ran by what I like.
Yeah.
You know, because it'd be pretty plain.
You know, though, I remember matches growing up where they'd have two guys in the ring, the heel and the babyface, and the heel would grab the babyface and get him in a bear hug, and the babyface would sell that for 20 minutes. And the crowd was going crazy when he got out of the bear hug.
Yeah. Well, that's what I miss too, man. I miss the working a hold and doing spots out of the hold and going back to it. It seems like today it's bang, bang.
Yeah. Do you catch any of the other wrestling like TNA and
No, I don't.
Yeah.
They just had an ROH show here this past weekend, but I wasn't invited, so I didn't go.
Yeah. As I understand it, I never knew this, you were going to do a program with Hulk Hogan as the heel, right? And you were so popular, though, that they just couldn't do it.
Yeah, we shot the angle, and while we were shooting the ankle, Vince was shaking his head, saying it's not going to work, because the fans were chanting DDT, and that was the end of that. So we went to two house shows, one in Providence, one around Rhode Island, the other one in Montreal, sold out both of them, turned people away, but it was not what they wanted to hear. You know, the fans were chanting for Jake. But, you know, it's just the way it is, man. The fans believed in what I did, and they wouldn't be swayed.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, it's, you know, I can't change that, and I don't wish to. I never needed a belt to be a champion. I was a champion in my own right. I regret it because it cost me a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money, because I was never given that run, you know, that, you know, Savage and the rest of the guys got. You know, it's crazy the way Vince's pay scale worked. If you were wrestling a champion, you got a pretty good piece of the pie.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand that, because I'd go back to the same building and do the same number of people, but I just wouldn't make as much money.
Right.
So, well, what the hell, you know?
Yeah.
I don't get that, but But again, I'm not the boss, so I need to shut the F up and just do what I'm supposed to do. That's what I did. I kept on rolling down the road.
Yeah, and I mean, Hulk Hogan is not going to be able to entertain the whole night. It takes all of you, really.
Well, you'd think so.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I've caught you during a very busy time in your life. You're all over the place for the month of March, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, man. It's crazy. Well, March, April, May, June, July. I'm moving right along, man. I've got so much going on right now. And, not to, my main focus should be me working on my book, which I've finished.
Oh.
I'm just proofreading it now. So I'm trying to do a couple of chapters today, proofread it, and let it go, and then we'll be setting the type and print the damn thing. But hopefully we can get that done the next couple of months before it'll be turned out, and I'm really looking forward to getting it out there. I think that I know that nobody's ever taken the time to do an in-depth study as I did.
Yeah.
Of one's career and lays it out there like I did.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about the very beginnings, how humble they were, and how horrible I was, because I was horrible. This did not happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
I had to keep at it for some time, and I think the people find it entertaining, and I think they'll also see a side of Jake they never saw. A vulnerable guy, a guy that was lost, did not know what to do, and hopefully they'll enjoy it and keep coming back for more. I think there's 600 pages on this book, and there won't be another book to follow.
Is there any wrestler that had the greatest influence on you as far as your wrestling?
Yeah, Buck Robley, Bob Sweetan, guys like that.
Oh yeah.
Eddie Graham.
Right.
Buck Robley gave me my break.
Mm-hmm.
He probably did more for me getting my head ready. And you'll read about that in the book. I got a plug in there. How about that?
Hey, what do you think of TNA's six-sided ring?
I don't much think of it. I try not to think of it. It's very confusing for me. It takes half the fun out of it.
Yeah.
To me, it just doesn't seem like the right place to be. I guess they're mixed up with the octagon, whatever they want to do. It's just not working. I'm real big on keeping it simple and four corners. I think there's plenty enough to learn out there with four corners, not 6 or 8.
But do you think the public would be better off if we had territories again?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think the talent pool would be much larger. I think it'd open up a lot of doors for a lot more talent to learn, and with that, you would have a lot more superstars being created. When Vince McMahon started breaking it all down, he took from every territory.
Yeah.
And they were running 3 cities a night back then. So there was certainly a lot of talent at one time.
Right.
But now it's dried up.
Yeah, plus if you had a promoter that was screwing you over, you could just go somewhere, you could move on. But now...
Yeah, well, that happened a lot.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. Now, you've also got there's a documentary out, The Resurrection of Jake the Snake.
Right.
What's happened so far with this movie? I know it was at a film festival.
We went out to Slam Dance or Sundance, or a little bit of both, and did real well out there. We're out in Park City, Utah for, I guess, about 10 days, man, and it was well received. And now they're getting ready to show it again in L.A., and from there we're just going to keep making a few film set festivals until I decide the right way to put it out there. Unfortunately, I won't be in the L.A. showing because I'm doing my comedy show, and I'll be in New York during that time. So,
yeah,
something else I'm doing now is I'm doing comedy.
Yeah,
and basically,
that's awesome.
I just go out and talk about road stories and funny moments with the Snake or with another wrestler, and just moments that your fans don't see, and teach a little bit about Jake. I even take a few minutes of the show to talk about my alcoholism and drug addiction, and how I stand on that, and, which is pretty funny to do in the bar, but it works for me.
You know, you made a great point on a podcast three months ago, and I just wanted to bring this up because it was really pretty deep. In fact, I don't even think that the hosts knew what to do with it. But you were talking about, I think they were talking about comments that people make on the internet, and it's so easy for people to do that. You know, people say things about you, and they say things about everybody. And then your comment, which I thought was really deep and really interesting, was you, instead of commenting on that, you were talking about why they do it. And you were saying, you know, look at the technology and how we're so disconnected from each other. Everybody's texting, everybody's on the internet, everybody's playing video games, and they're not talking to each other. And so as a result, I think that they're doing this stuff out of bitterness. You know, they're not feeling good about themselves, so they're attacking other people. This is a real problem in society, isn't it?
Oh, it's too sick. You know, I hate the internet for that reason.
Yeah.
You know, at some point they're going to step in and they're going to make laws and people abide by something because, you know, my children have been hurt several times, you know, hearing that I died in my sleep or I died in a drug overdose or died doing this. You know, I don't find it funny. My children don't find it funny.
No.
And the jerks that do it, there's no repercussion for them. They don't have to answer to anybody.
Right.
You know, I guarantee a lot of it would stop if you had to go face the person that you're tormenting face to face. Or here, put me in that room with that guy for about 15 minutes. Let's see who comes out the other side.
Yeah.
He's still laughing then.
I actually think some of these people have mental problems because of all of this technology.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
They do. They're bored with life. They have nothing going on. They just want to be mean. You know, I don't know, maybe, I just try to take my days now and enjoy them if I can. I do a little bit on Twitter, you know, and sometimes I get pretty serious on Twitter, you know, and, you know, I'll go out there and say things that I mean to hit home for people.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully, you know, hey, who have you helped today?
Yeah.
Who have you helped today? You know, have you been kind to someone today? Have you opened the door for a lady today? You need to ask yourself these questions, because I think sometimes we get caught up in ourselves and we just don't realize.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually think that some of this ugliness that you see people displaying is, number one, they don't think that anybody loves them, and number two, they don't know that God loves them. And so they're so spiritually and maybe emotionally bankrupt that's a reaction to that.
It's a knee-jerk reaction, you know, it's a child being a child, behaving like a child, you know, and some people never grow up.
Yeah.
You know, some people are so friggin' shallow that they'll never grow up. They're so happy being the king of their little world.
Yeah.
It's a damn shame.
Last question, because I know we got to wrap this up. Yep. Also, I haven't talked to you yet since the old school Raw. What was that like, going out there with a snake?
That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It really was. For them to give me an opportunity, walking into the gorilla position was such a high for me.
Yeah.
You know, going back there where, you know, it's such a testament to gorilla that they still got the gorilla position. You know, it'll always be the gorilla position. But to go there and to see Vince again after so many years, and having let that water go under the bridge, they were kind enough to let me back in. And I certainly appreciate it. And the moment going to the ring and finally touching that ring again, you know, that was the real deal. You know, you can do all the independence you want, man, but until you put your hands and your palms on that mat, there's WWE, you're not back.
Yeah.
Once you do that, you're back. And to go in the ring and have CM Punk, who, you know, was the star at the time, sit down on the ropes and allow me to have that moment. That was a man doing a man's job, and he certainly elevated in my books in doing that. He was very unselfish, and It was a great time, man. So it's always good talking to you, and hopefully we can do this again.
Oh, definitely. Jake the Snake Roberts, he'll be all over the place this month, and you can find him on Facebook and Twitter, and also he's going to be at WrestleCon the weekend of WrestleMania. Yep. Jake, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
The Bruce Collins Show would like to thank Gail Kim and Jake the Snake Roberts for their appearance this week in our salute to WrestleMania. WrestleMania, of course, coming up in 2 short weeks. And many people wrestle with many things in life, not just professional wrestlers. We know in the Bible that Jacob wrestled God in Genesis chapter 32. And people wrestle with the idea of a creator of the universe who sent his son to die for their sins. And they question whether or not this could really be true. And it is true that Jesus Christ came to pay for your sins. Hebrews chapter 10 verse 12 says, "But this man," meaning Jesus, "after he had offered one sacrifice for sins forever, sat down on the right hand of God. For by one offering he hath perfected forever them that are sanctified." When God looks at you, he sees the finished work of his Son. Hebrews 10:12 says that you have not only been sanctified, that is, made holy, but by the same offering of his body you have been perfected. You are both holy and perfect in God's eyes. Your sins have been purged perfectly. Jesus today is seated at his Father's right hand, not because he is the Son of God, although he is, but because his work of purging your sins is completely finished. And that's why at the cross he said, "It is finished." God's righteousness was given to you as a gift if you have accepted it. I've heard many people say that what kind of a God is a God that would send people to hell? But the fact is that God sends no one there. People make decisions on their own. The gift of salvation is for you. You can tonight accept that free gift and thank Jesus for his work at the cross. It's a perfect work that will remove all your sins. God sees you as a born-again believer covered in the robes of his own righteousness. He treats you as a righteous man because that is what he has made you. So you can expect good things to happen to you because blessings are on the head of the righteous. Proverbs 10:6. I love professional wrestling. I promoted professional wrestling. I have many hobbies. I love radio. And I never get tired of talking about Jesus Christ because of what he has done for me. And I know what he can do for you. And if you have a moment when you hear our guests and you believe in Jesus Christ, if you can say a prayer for them, that God would send laborers to them to speak to their hearts, that would be appreciated. And I can't thank you enough for listening to this program. You can make many choices on Friday nights, and you can make many choices on how you want to spend 60 minutes. But the fact that you spend time with me means a lot to me, and I want to thank you for that. And we have some great, fascinating, special guests coming up in the next few months, and I know you're going to enjoy it. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Bruce Collins at The Bruce Collins Show. Thank you so much for joining us each and every week, Fridays at midnight on WWPR 1490 AM. We would ask that you would support all of your favorite charities that help to spread the gospel, clothe the needy, and feed the hungry. You can do that as thanks for listening to our program. We ask of no monetary payback from you, only your listenership and your dedication to making the world a better place. Here's what best-selling author and columnist for the Weekly Standard, Jay Cost, had to say about the Bruce Collins Show.
Great. Now, Bruce, that was such a good interview. I've done so many of these now. That was easily one of the best. You actually read the book. I really appreciate it.
The Bruce Collins Show, striving to earn your listenership. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Bruce Collins Show, where you can find us every Friday night at midnight here at WWPR 1490 AM. Remember, God loves you. We do too. Don't give up.